I call the May 8th, 2018 meeting of the Portsmouth City Council to order, and I'll ask my colleagues on council to stand as Pastor Ronald Thompson of Mount Sinai Family Life Christian Center leads us in our invocation, and then I'll ask Councilman Bill Moody to lead us in the pledge. Thank you.
To Honorable Mayor Rowe and Vice Mayor Simas, and to all the members of the City Council, it is indeed an honor for me to lead you in prayer this evening. And to that end, let us pray. Most holy and all-wise God, we are truly thankful for your generous bounty that surrounds us as we gaze upon your handiwork. It is with hearts full of amazement that we declare how great thou art. And because of thy greatness and your tender mercies, we invoke your presence here this evening. Lord God, bless this gathering of the citizenship of our fair city. Bless each community and allow their paths to intertwine as we together weave our way to prosperity for all. Bless our mayor, crown his head with wisdom and compassion. Bless all the officers and members of this council. Help them to be committed to you so that they will consider the communities that they serve with integrity that only comes from above. We pray for our young people today. Lord, we ask that you would cover them with your wings. Hide them, Lord, under your protection, as well as bless those who care for them. Send solutions to our problems. Send the spirit of compromise. Send the spirit of unity, a spirit that will make us the envy of every city in this region. Bless us this day, O Lord. But not only that, make us a blessing. We pray in Jesus' name. Amen.
Thank you. I'll ask my colleagues on council to indicate their presence by voting yes or hitting the yes button. Madam Clerk, we do have a quorum.
Yes, sir.
And our next item of business is the consideration of the approval of minutes. We have minutes of a call meeting of April 23rd, 2018. We have the minutes of a call meeting of April 24th, 2018. We have the minutes of a regular meeting, April 24th, 2018, and we have the minutes of a call meeting of April 30th, 2018. Is there a motion to approve all these minutes?
Move adoption.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
Madam Clerk, would you read the protocol for speakers, please?
Yes, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, City Council rules require a limit of up to 5 minutes to speak. As you approach the speaker's podium, you will notice a timer. At the beginning of your 5 minutes, you will see a green light. 4 minutes into your remarks, you will notice a yellow light. At the end of 5 minutes, you will see a red light, hear a beep, and we ask that you conclude your comments at that time. While speakers have an opportunity to address council on matters of public concern, all comments should be made in a manner that respects the seriousness of the forum and should not be made in a belligerent, sarcastic, or demeaning fashion. A speaker who fails to observe this basic rule of decorum will be deemed out of order and not allowed to conclude his or her comments.
Thank you, ma'am. Our first item of business is a public hearing. It's item 1875. It's a public hearing on the proposed real property tax increase. Ma'am? Excuse us as we Thank you. Again, we have a first item of business is a public hearing on the proposed real property tax increase. And Madam Clerk, this was duly advertised?
Yes, sir.
Any caption to read? There's none. This is a public hearing.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing on proposed real property tax increase. We do have two citizens who have signed up to speak, but because this is a public hearing, even though you have not signed up to speak at the public hearing, you may speak. I'll take first the people who have signed up, and the first speaker is Donna Sy, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. It's calling for a 6-cent tax rate increase or a $1.36 tax per 100 assessed value going to help the total general fund budget of the city to exceed last year by 1.1% better than cutting the spending. Why aren't the people told that the increase in a percentage is equal to the effective tax rate increase? Is because the city assessor or treasurer has based their assessment on the doubtful collections during the year 2017-18. So the collection of taxes this year has been doubtful. So what is the general fund budget increased for? There was no work session or town hall meeting at any time to explain the need for an increased tax rate. How come there is no transparency? Why was the Crawford Gateway revitalization strategy presented last night? Is it the reason for the tax increase? The 5 projects discussed are going to cost at least that sets the baseline for redevelopment efforts. The total cost for the 5 studies equals $500,000. There is a reason to increase the tax rate. There's a reason to increase the tax rate to spend the money. Evidently, there is the hope to get more people to live in Portsmouth by putting apartments along the waterfront at the taxpayer's expense. This money is the people's money. Candidates are elected to protect the people. Portsmouth was created in 1752 to prepare us for independence from Britain so we, the people, could get from under taxation without representation. Portsmouth is the center for our shipbuilding and repair to protect the people from invasions. Portsmouth's economy is going broke. People are leaving the city. The school's population is declining. The city and school employees need a raise in salaries every 2 years. Public hearings are all about politics, not about government of the people, by the people or for the people. We the people do not give our consent to raise our taxes. We give our consent to cut spending and require all departments to be self-sufficient. Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mark Godolgi-Yotrowski, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. The previous speaker misunderstood what is before you here. There is no $1.36 tax rate being proposed. Instead, there is the equivalent of a 6-cent raise based on the increased valuations that the assessor provided you. So essentially, for most people in this city, there's no real tax rate increase for real estate. But I would have been happier if you had actually added a 6-cent real increase over the current 130, because then you could do right by city employees and give them a 2% raise. And you could do right by the school employees and give them a 2% raise. And this would have been not the popular thing to do, but the reasonable thing to do. Because last time around, this time last year, city employees receive bonuses. Bonuses do not increase the basis for retirement payments later on. Bonuses are here and they're gone. It is the salary increase, the incremental week-by-week pay that goes into your checking account, into your deposit account, that counts toward your eventual retirement payments. So you did them a disservice, and you did the school employees a disservice by providing no compensation of any kind over and above what went before. Now, why a tax rate increase? Because there's no easy money in this budget. There's no windfall. And you must have a recurring revenue source if you are going to make a recurring change in the level of funding in the budget. So that would be my proposal. Of course, you'd have to start over. You would have to, if you were going to do it, which I doubt you will because it takes real courage. You would have to advertise it, and you would have to have a public hearing again before the implementation, the adoption of the final budget. But you have time. The budget must be in place by June 30th. You could do it if you had the will. Let me add one more thing. You could give back the $600,000 that you set aside for a shack on the waterfront at North Landing as a pro rata bonus to the taxpayers. You can do that because that's a one-time expense. So that would cut the effective rate to about 5 cents. And you could take out that phony line item in the budget for the auditor, the auditor position, which we haven't hired. We've left it vacant, but you still stuff money in there as though it were a real position. So between the two, that's a full penny. There are ways to do the right thing. Let me say that anybody who's holding out hopes that the General Assembly will take care of the schools problem in terms of salary increases, that's a false hope because, as others have stated in previous weeks, General Assembly puts up SOQ money, standards of quality money. So that leaves out the cafeteria workers, the building maintenance workers, the bus drivers, the bus monitors. We need a raise that touches all the employees in the schools because these are the Portsmouth public schools. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, as the city clerk read, there is no display. Please be respectful of all the speakers and be respectful of council's willingness to hear. This is a public hearing on the proposed tax increase. It is not a public hearing on the budget. If you desire to speak either for or against the proposed tax increase, you're welcome to come to the lectern. Please state your name and your address, and you'll have 5 minutes. Again, this is a public hearing on the proposed tax increase, real estate tax increase. Anybody desiring to speak? Hearing none, I now close this public hearing. We'll move to item 18-176, which is a series of 7 ordinances, and we'll take the ordinances one at a time. And would you read the caption for 176, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Item A.
Would you
just
read
want the main caption?
The main caption,
Okay.
and then we'll go
Break
to
it
A.
down. Okay.
Yes.
Adoption of ordinances and resolution to appropriate the total sum of $720,102,069 for the operation of city government for fiscal year 2019 for the following areas. City operating budget, $431,621,790. Capital Improvement Fund, $38,140,062. Public Utilities Capital Improvement Fund, $56,800,000. Parking Authority, $250,000. And Portsmouth Public Schools operating budget, $193,290,217.
Thank you. And again, ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues on council, we have 7 budget-related ordinances. We'll take them one at a time, and this brings us to item A, the first of the ordinances. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption for that ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to amend and reenact ordinance number 2017-25 to impose and levy taxes for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018 and ending June 30th, 2019 on real estate, tangible personal property, privately owned pleasure boats, privately owned camping trailers, and motor homes, and machinery and tools within the city of Portsmouth, Virginia, for the purpose of raising revenue for the support of governmental operations and the public free schools, and to pay principal and interest on public debt.
Colleagues on council, so that we can consider this item, is there a motion to adopt?
Move for adoption.
Second.
We have a motion to adopt, and it's been duly seconded. We're ready for discussion, and we do have one registered speaker, and that's Ms. Donna Sy. And ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms. This ordinance is to impose taxes for the fiscal year July 1, 2018 to June 30th, 2019 on real estate, on tangible personal property, on privately owned pleasure boats, camping trailers, and motorhomes, and on machinery and tools within Portsmouth, and for raising revenue to support government operations of both the city and schools, and for to pay principal and interest on the public debt. There are 3 principles of liberty that apply to this ordinance. 1, a free people should be governed by law and not by the whims of men. 2, a free society cannot survive as a republic without a broad program of general education. And 3, the burden of debt is as destructive to freedom as an individual attempting to exercise absolute control over him by force or influence. We the people are being controlled by thoughts of increased materialism by government. Our education system is filled with entertainment and unnecessary people who are in their jobs by political election and not by need. The city officials borrow money without the consent of the people. They also refuse to inform the people of the reasons why or the cost of the interest rates. How can city council members engage with the people and create a city government of the people, by the people, or even for the people? Thanks for listening.
Thank you. We're ready for further discussion by members of council. The chair recognizes Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, I will be voting against this ordinance because it reads in substance that this is for the purpose of raising revenue for the support of governmental operations. One of the major functions of government is providing public education, and since this council has not gone on record to find funding to pay for pay increases for our school employees, then evidently there has to be some type of tax consideration, although there are funds there to take care of these raises. And so I think that it would not be responsible to adopt a tax structure that does not support public education particularly the raises that are being requested. And if council is not going to put a structure in place, then I'm not in favor of such a structure.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries, which brings us to item B. Will you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to make a technical amendment to Appendix A of the Code of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, to reflect the execution of a contract with the City of Chesapeake in 2017 for the provision of water, and to amend Appendix A to eliminate the current charge for ambulance billing for supplies.
So that we may consider this item, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hear none. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries, which brings us to item C. Will you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance adopting the FY 2019 classification and pay plan for employees of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia.
So that we can consider this item, is there a motion to adopt the ordinance?
Motion to adopt.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion that's been duly made and seconded to adopt the ordinance, and we do have one registered speaker, and that's Ms. Donna Sy. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. This ordinance is for the year 2018-2019 pay plan classification for the employees of the city. The salary schedules listed were for the general employees by grade, by position title, and for sworn public safety. What we the people need to see in addition to the pay plan classification is what department these employees are assigned to. We the people also need to see the job description of these people. Of the position. Is this information in a policy and procedure manual so the people can come in and review it? If so, how can I obtain that information? And if you don't have it, don't you think that's a problem? Thanks for listening.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? We're ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries, which brings us to item D. And Madam Clerk, would you read the caption of that ordinance?
Yes,
Or
sir.
resolution, I mean.
A resolution approving the Community Planning and Development 2019 Annual Action Plan of the City of Portsmouth, Virginia, and authorizing the city manager to file documents required to obtain the city's community planning and development grant entitlements.
Thank you. So that we can consider this resolution, is there a motion to adopt?
Move for adoption.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. We're ready for the discussion, and we do have one registered speaker, and that's Donna Sy. Ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. This resolution is for approving the community planning and development for the year 2018-19 annual action plan and gives the city manager authority to file them for the city. This funding program is from the federal government's Housing and Urban Development Agency. There is a regulated format done annually on a 5-year cycle by city officials as required by the federal government to obtain funding for the following services: Parks and Rec Senior Transportation, Parks and Rec Mobile Kids Meal, Parks and Rec Health and Wellness Program, Parks and Rec Youth Leadership Development Program, Independent Center Services for Disabled, Park Intake Services, 4 Kids Intake Services, Eggleston Homeless Employment Services. Seeing all these funds coming into the city from the federal government to take care of the children in our city is scary, especially when Principles of Liberty reminds us that the core unit which determines the strength of any society is the family. Therefore, the government should foster and protect the family's integrity. The federal government does not foster and or protect the family's integrity because it is in following the rule of our Creator that a man shall leave his father and his mother and shall unite with his wife, and they shall be one flesh. Instead, the federal government promotes building public housing communities with taxpayers' money so that single women and their children live separate and apart from the man that has left his father and mother and for whom she is supposed to be one flesh with. An example in Portsmouth in the public housing communities, there are at least a total of 1,228 women, 1,468 children, and 394 men. Without the man in the household, the federal government provides funding for services for seniors, provides meals for children and adults, provides health and wellness programs, provides youth leadership programs, and other programs. All this federal funding is taking away the incentives of women to provide their young with their necessary role models in the home, the children's father. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. Any further discussion of this item? Any further discussion on the motion? The motion is to adopt. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries. Which brings us to item E, and would you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance approving the fiscal year 2019 operating budget for the Portsmouth Public School System in the amount of $193,290,217 and appropriating the necessary funds to implement said budget for the first quarter of fiscal year 2019. Is that right?
For the entire year, it should read.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Do you have the number?
This is a ordinance to appropriate the sum of
Yeah, that's the
$193
number
million.
that you have.
Yes, at one time. Is there,
It says that within the
The ordinance.
document.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
yes. Is there a motion to adopt so we can consider this matter? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded, and we're ready for a discussion on the motion. We have 4 registered speakers. The first speaker is Sergio Neal, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, and the general public. My name is Sergio O'Neill. I reside at 1560 Darren Circle here in the city of Portsmouth. I come before you tonight because there is a concern within our city that our teachers and staff are not paid enough. There's a concern across the nation that our teachers and staff are not paid enough. I wholeheartedly share in that concern because, first of all, I don't think any of us would be here without the teachers and staff that paved the way for us to receive the education that we did. It was my hope that our city would meet our school system in the middle and fund at least 1%, and then ask the school system to go back and adjust their budget to provide the other 1% for our teachers and staff to receive the raise. I look around tonight when I came in and I saw one of my teachers, actually a couple of my teachers that were teaching when I was in Portsmouth Public Schools. And it amazes me that they are still here in our school system, especially one of them who put up with some things that in the middle school I went to was almost like a war zone. And to see her survive that and still be with the Portsmouth public school system says more than anything I could ever come before you and say. I honestly hope that in years going forward that we start to look at our contribution to public education here in the city of Portsmouth. And we start to realize on both sides, with the school system and the city council coming together, that it is imperative that we make sure that the people that provide the public education in this city, no matter how they do it, whether they actually teach in a classroom or whether they clean the floors as a custodian, that they feel valued for what they do day in and day out. We have a mass exodus for the last 2 years of teachers leaving the school system. I would hope that that something is done to kind of slow that flow. And that's not a problem unique to Portsmouth. That's a problem nationwide. Portsmouth has to be the example for public education. We've been the example for a lot of other things. It's time to be the example for something positive. I think the people behind me would feel the same, and that it's now time to move our city forward. One way we can do that is with public education. If we want to look at economic development and to see how we can move that forward, we can look at public education. We can let businesses know that we have the workforce that they need because we have an educational system that has the teachers and staff to train those workers to get out there and make an honest contribution to what they are trying to put forth in our region. I have to say that I respect every one of you on city council and our city manager for doing what you all have done with this budget. I really hope that you all gave it some hard thought. I know that you all gave it some hard thought process. Let me correct myself, because I know that's not a task that many people can do. It is my hope that no one leaves here with ill will and that we can move our city forward. It is my hope that after tonight, we can all learn from the things that have occurred in this budget process and make sure that when it comes to educating the city on the budget cycle and how things work, we start doing more and we improve that line of communication so that citizens can be aware of how this function works. Because without this function, nothing happens in this city without a budget being put forth. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is Steve Carroll, and sir, you have 5 minutes. You're signed up to speak on this one. Was that a mistake? Well, will you come to the lectern, please?
I can condense my comments to the next item if that pleases City Council.
This is not a public hearing.
Okay, it's not?
No, sir. We're taking registered speakers who want to speak on particular items on the agenda, and you're signed up for this particular
Okay,
item.
all right. Then,
And we're only considering this item with this motion.
well, that puts me in a jam. I really don't have comments on this. I misunderstood the conversation I had with the clerk. That would be my fault. So if I can't defer, then I can't address this item.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Alonzo Waters. And sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Lorenzo Waters, 811 Hancock Avenue, Portsmouth, Virginia. First of all, Dr. Whitaker, I would like to applaud you for your voice and for your stand for education. This is something that you have stood for years, and you're still standing, and you're still letting your voice be heard, and I applaud you for that. I'm here in support for the budget that the superintendent of the Portsmouth Public Schools submitted to the council. It's not like the money is not there to support the superintendent's budget, because it is. And I would like to challenge all the voters in Portsmouth. I would like to challenge my former co-workers, my former shipbuilders, because you have children that go to Portsmouth Public Schools, you have grandchildren, you have great-grandchildren, you even have family that's working within the Portsmouth Public Schools. Now, being a former shipbuilder, we know what it's like to go years without receiving a raise, because we've been there. And like I said before, the money is there, but I challenge the voters in Portsmouth to look and see how this council votes on this ordinance, whether they approve the budget that the Portsmouth Public School Superintendent submitted to them. And that includes a raise for all school employees, not just teachers, but all school employees. And the money is there to do it. But will the council do this? And again, Dr. Whitaker, continue to stand and continue to let your voice be heard, because this is something that has to be dealt with. It's been going on for years. How would some of you like to be in a position to go years without receiving a raise? And again, I challenge my former shipbuilders. We know what it's like, because we've been there. And the money is there to support the superintendent's budget. But will this council do it? Pay attention to how they vote. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker is, please, out. The next speaker is Brenda Joseph, and ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor Rowe, members of council, and fellow citizens. My name is Brenda Joseph, and of course, I'm here to speak regarding the budget. I know that the budget has to be balanced. I know that everybody in the room has their own special area of interest when it comes to the budget. Mine is obviously in education. I've been with Portsmouth for 17 years as an educator. One of my teachers spent 44 years at Craddock Middle School in the same classroom teaching art. Another teacher that I had in middle school just retired this past year, Miss A.C. Brown Boyce. So Portsmouth has teachers that have stayed, but because of the budget issues, you have a lot of teachers that are leaving. You're not getting the longevity, the continuation, the familiarity with the children to know what they need. So each year, the school board presents you with what they need to meet the basic needs of our children in the school system, the basic needs. In the presentation of what is needed, references have been made to the standards of quality and how they are the minimum, and the state assists and funds those. One standard mentions having at least one reading specialist who is trained in the identification of and the appropriate interventions, accommodations, and teaching techniques for students with dyslexia or a related disorder, and to have an understanding of the definition of dyslexia and a working knowledge of several topics relating to dyslexia. When you have 13 elementary schools, and if the state provides you with one such reading specialist, what are you supposed to do? How can you expect that one person to be able to evaluate the students, assist the teachers in deciding and implementing accommodations for these children that are appropriate and that are going to move these children ahead? And more basic than that, how do you decide which children in which schools get the services of this person? Where do they go? Which kids get left out? Which children get left out because they're not kids? Another standard of quality mentions remediation programs for students who don't pass their SOL test. We all know that we want the children to pass, that they need to pass so we can meet the requirements set by the state and federal governments. But this standard applies to students beginning in 3rd grade, all the way up through high school. So for some, that's 10 years. If they do not pass their test, we are required to have remediation programs for these children. Remediation programs aren't cheap, even if the state supplements it. There are materials to be purchased. There are qualified personnel that have to be hired to run the program, and the materials and personnel often are above and beyond the regular school day, the regular curricula. Utilities such as water, heat, electricity. And these items aren't free, they're not cheap, they have to be paid for when we have these after-school programs. We're required to do them. It's not something Portsmouth can opt out of. It's been mentioned by a member of council about a bus issue, where the school system and the city council had made some agreement about this. City council would give money for the bus, and when the school system got the money from the state, they would pay it back. Well, let me tell you and remind this council of an agreement made by a previous council that was several years ago pertaining to funding the school system. It was understood we're in a recession, everybody's budget is down. However, we were told as things increased within the city, as the recession began to go out, as we brought more businesses in, that the funding for the school system would come up to 1/3 of the city's annual operating budget. I calculated your numbers. It's at about 26%. 1/3 is 33.3%. Doesn't match. Hasn't occurred yet. The school system is not asking you to keep this promise. They're asking you for enough money to provide a small raise to each of the employees of the system. As a lifelong resident of Portsmouth, I don't think that's too much to ask. In conclusion, before you vote yes for this budget tonight, take these and the concerns others have mentioned into consideration. If you cannot, in all good conscience and faith, vote yes that this is an appropriate way to treat our schools and our children, then I urge you to vote no and let the motion fail. And then someone make a motion and second it, asking to put off this vote on the budget until you can come back together and consider a revision so that you can meet the needs of the children. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And that's all of our registered speakers. We're now ready for council to discuss it. And the chair, the motion that is, the chair recognizes Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, I have a couple of items here. First of all, the language, Mr. Mayor, the language of the ordinance itself. As we know, there were some changes that were made from our earlier meeting. We are, for our citizens, we're now moving from categorical funding of our schools to non-categorical funding, which is something we had been requesting for years, that the city council not fund the schools on a categorical basis, but on a non-categorical basis, so that the school can manage the money as it desires. That will be taken care of with this ordinance, which I commend this council on that aspect of it. The language, however, the last line, next to the last line, it says for the first quarter of fiscal year 2019. If we're doing this non-categorically, then do we need the language for the first quarter, or should it just be for the fiscal year 2019?
Good catch. It should read for the whole fiscal year. Would you want to make a motion to delete that?
That's right. That's the question I'm raising. Should that language be there?
It should not.
It should, right.
No. The chair recognizes the city attorney.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, members of City Council, as you all know, and we discussed, you discussed in the meeting, what we're appropriating is the lump sum for the first quarter of next year. That, and the issue being, of course, that we have modifying the current and understanding where council is a lump sum amount. It will not be the values that are in the ordinance address the first quarter while you're approving the budget for the whole amount. So the other amounts will be forthcoming
Well,
Dr. Whitaker?
yeah.
You're absolutely
the-
correct. It's the consensus of council that this be a one appropriation. So we need the language to reflect that. And can we strike that language that talks about the first quarter and make it for the entire fiscal year? That is the desire of the majority of council.
Mayor, let me, I understand where you are. Mayor, give me 1 second.
If you change the caption to read said budget for fiscal year 2019, that should do it.
Mayor, I have the substitute. The attempt was to stay as close to the original language that you have. Let me present to you all what I think represents your particular concern with regard to how this is established. Give me 1 second.
Pardon me? Yeah. Okay, this one doesn't.
Yeah, this is a,
Yeah.
yeah, just struck it. I just struck
Madam
it.
Clerk, do you have this ordinance?
Right, that's,
Okay, will you read the caption of that ordinance? That was the purpose of,
Yes, sir. An ordinance approving the fiscal year 2019 operating budget for the Portsmouth Public School System in the amount of $193,290,217 and appropriating the necessary funds to implement said budget for the fiscal year 2019.
right.
and let me ask the maker of the motion, Vice Mayor, was that your motion to approve this ordinance? And that was your second, so we're good. All right, this is the ordinance that we are considering. Dr. Whitaker?
Yes, so that was the correction needed. Now, I'm going to be voting against this ordinance because it does not include the 2% raise for all of the employees in Portsmouth Public Schools. We have the funds available to take care of the request, and I think that the citizens need to be aware of the fact that we are doing a disservice to our education system when we do not properly fund it. This is a city that has a significant poverty issue. Just funding the schools to an SOQ is a minimum level, and achieving the SOL is a minimum level. We need to make sure that our teachers as well as our employees are paid properly. This is not a May issue. This is not a month of May issue, and there's no need of us keep having to come here every budget season requesting something that doesn't reflect our interests and continue to put people on council that do not reflect our interests. This is not a May issue. This is a November issue. And it has already been decided by this council that it will not be funding pay raises for city employees. I am totally against that for school employees. I am totally against that because our school system is the greatest investment that we make in this city. Many of us wouldn't be where we are today were it not for the education we receive. And so I'm not going to be a part of this choir in Portsmouth that was saying we need to take our city back. We don't need to go back, we need to go forward. And the way we do that is by making sure that our education system is there, not for just those who can afford it, but it needs to be there for all of our children, and they deserve the best school system that we can provide, and we can do better. And so I'm not going to be voting for this because I am pro-education. I am not anti-education, and I'm for, and I understand what our teachers and employees, I understand what they go through on a daily basis, and I know that you deserve better. And so I'm supporting education.
Thank you, sir. The chair recognizes Councilman Smith. Ladies and gentlemen, please. Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm not going to get in a debate with Councilman Whitaker, but I do want to say that he's not correct in that the money is there. What is there is the responsibility of the state of Virginia to fully fund education at the level that they used to. They've cut it, and it's down. I think we're probably in the bottom quadrant of the country of states as far as funding, and we're in the top quadrant as one of the wealthiest states in the country. I just want to make it clear. He says that
Please.
the money is there, and the money is not there on a continuing basis. But we will and we do want to recommend and want to, by going away from the method of funding, to allow the school system to, within their own budget, move money around to do what they need to do for the employees. And that's what I would recommend, and that's what I think they should do. Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please, is there any other member of council that wants to speak on this matter? Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, I just want to reiterate what I have said. Not just this fiscal year. I've been saying it ever since I was elected to the school board back in 2002, that our schools should be fully funded. And when I say that funds are there, I'm not speaking incorrectly and I'm not speculating, but I am speaking what is in the budget. Budgets are where those in positions make decisions on how funds are spent. This council, by a majority, has made a decision not to fund pay raises for school systems. Everyone who works with a budget knows that there are priorities and there are decisions you have to make. And so the issue is not that I'm incorrect. The issue is that I'm correct on education, that I support it, and I will continue to support it. And Mr. Smith, I'm not going to get distracted by comments of you saying that I'm incorrect. You were appointed to this council, and I just want to make sure you understand you were appointed by those who are not pro-education, and so evidently you're running the ball well.
Thank you, Dr. Whitaker. Any other discussion on the motion? Ready for the question? All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries, which brings us, ladies and gentlemen, please maintain order. Will you read the next ordinance?
Yes, sir. An ordinance appropriating the FY 2019 through 23 capital improvement program.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're conducting business.
Yeah.
All right, we read on.
An ordinance approving the FY 2019 through 2023 capital improvement program and appropriating $38,140,062 in the FY 2019 capital improvement fund and $56,800,000 in the FY 2019 public utilities capital improvement fund and $250,000 in the FY 2019 Parking Authority Capital Improvement Fund.
Thank you. So that we can consider this matter, is there a motion to adopt? Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded, and we do have registered speakers. We're ready for discussion, and our first speaker is Donna Sy. And ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Donna Sy, and I live in the Woodbine Farms neighborhood. 18-176F is an ordinance approving for the year 2019 to 2023 capital improvement program and appropriating over $38 million in the 2018-2019 capital improvement plan fund of over $56 million for the year 2018-2019 Public Utilities Capital Improvement Fund, and $250,000 for the Parking Authority Capital Improvement Fund. The revenue recorded for the Capital Improvement Fund is state category aid of $132,000, state funding from VDOT of over $4 million, charges for services of $35,000, operating transfer in of over $12 million, bond proceeds of over $21 million. Who was the bond counsel to determine how the bond proceeds will be invested given expectations for drawdown of proceeds, federal tax law requirements, or other concerns? And who is ensuring that fees paid to brokers are reasonable and are within internal policy and federal guidelines? And when were the people informed of this transaction? The expenditures for the capital projects are drainage and street improvements, industrial and economic development, and what development projects? Municipal facilities. And what municipal facilities is that? Fleet management. What is fleet management? And leisure services. And what is the leisure services? The total amount of the city's capital projects is over $30 million. This leaves $7.8 million for the school's capital projects. And I just learned tonight at the work session what the school capital projects are that add up to $7.8 million. I was really concerned about the lack of on-target information. Got that tonight. What the education, new middle school. I didn't even know that y'all voted for that. I mean, I just don't know what y'all are doing. I just don't know. All right. So all the capital projects have a paper trail with forms that are left with the finance office of the school board. And their forms are not sent with the request for money to the city financial officers. The Public Utilities Capital Improvement Fund is over $56 million. And the Public Utilities Capital Improvement revenue is listed as operating transfers, revenue bond proceeds of over $55 million with total revenues of $56.8 million. The Public Utilities Capital Improvement expenditures listed are water, sewer, municipal facilities of over of $650,000, and I wanted to know what facilities that included. I don't have the money to print out the budget, so I couldn't do the research. The parking authority revenue that makes up $250,000 comes from the charges for services, fines and forfeitures, use of property, and operating transfers in from its general fund budget. The total debt from bonds and notes is over $77 million. There's no information available at this time for the debt service, and we the people need to know this information. All this debt has an effect on why our taxes are so high. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, ma'am. The next speaker is James Everton, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
I think I made a mistake, like Mr. Carroll did. I thought I was signing up for the public comment section. And I think I stated up there that it was about the Truxton Fire Station.
This would be in the capital budget, so you're. at the
Yeah, I
right-
know that you calling me up now, but I really signed up for,
The Truxton Fire Station is in the CIP. That's why you
Oh,
were put
okay.
under here.
You're in the right place at the right time.
okay, all right. Well, I just wanted to say I watched the public work session yesterday, and I saw where it was recommended. And I'd like to thank the city manager for, she said it would be a study, and they performed the study. And it wasn't favorable to my liking, but, the study was there. And I just hope whatever the plan is to improve the response times all over the city is something that we act on very quickly, because I think one of the department heads said yesterday when he was questioned about how the training sort of hinders some of the tracks, and at certain times, he said it doesn't happen much, but at certain times, that train blocks 3 major streets. And the first responders for our area is Winchester, the Winchester Fire Station, I believe. And it doesn't take, say for instance, someone has a heart issue, and they need to get to the hospital right away, and it doesn't take but that one time that all 3 of those streets are blocked, where they might not get to them on time. So I'm just asking now that we move quickly on these plans and not sit on this, and it'll be another year or 5 years before this happens, before we do something comparable to having the fire station in Truxton. And it never has been a thing about it being in Truxton. We just wanted to make sure we had quick response time, and we live in an older neighborhood and a lot of issues out there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to go on record to say I support giving the raises to the teachers.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say to Mr. Overton, like I thought, and we've been seeing the Truxton Fire Station on the CIP, for a number of years. But what we learned, and I think you've probably maybe seen the rebroadcast, is that because it's taken so long to act on it, things have kind of deteriorated in other stations. And so the city managers has ordered, all of them to be reevaluated. And there may be a need to realign stations where that there's some of them that are very, very old, and in the realignment, I'm pretty sure it'll be covered, but at a different location, other than what's been proposed at Truxton at that corner, and also the fact that they're going to be looking and doing a lot more research on response times and locations, and the best locations for the ones that will remain. Because there may be a need to eliminate a few of them because of age and what it would cost to build a new one.
Yeah, and there was a concern, the response time. And also, I'm glad that you're planning on taking that out of the budget, so it won't be any false hope from people that read the budget, because it's been in the budget, the Truxton Fire Station, for years. So I guess you're all in the process of taking at least that part of it out of there, so
Well, it'll stay there until we come to a decision.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. Then we'll take it out if need be. We may find out that that's the right place for it, but right now it's just kind of on hold.
I'll come back and keep on pushing for it then.
Right.
If that's a possibility.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion on council of this motion? Hearing none. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries, which brings
Yes.
us to item G. And will you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
Yes, sir. An ordinance to appropriate $431,621,790 for the operation of city government during the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2018.
So that we may consider this this ordinance, is there a motion to adopt? We have a motion that's been duly made and seconded. We're ready for our discussion. We do have 3 registered speakers, and the first speaker is Mark Godolgi-Otrowski. And sir, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, honorable members of council, and fellow interested parties. To misquote Shakespeare, how do I hate this budget? Let me count the ways. The first thing I hate about this budget is that the survey that was supposed to lay the ground for public participation did not reach enough people that represent the makeup of the city demographically. The survey also didn't ask questions in the right way to allow for meaningful input. And what ended up happening was the survey went out, it came back, and there was no net benefit to the budget process. Second thing I hate about this budget is it's not a real budget. It's kind of a framework budget, a skeleton budget. But as happened last year, in that room, I call it the back room because it's not out here where the people come to sit en masse, just a few, where the special interests have a chance to corner council members and pour out their tales of woe. In the back room last year, there were agreements made to drop in additional goodies, bonuses for retirees, bonuses for one group of retirees, and then later, well, we can't just do it for one group of retirees, let's do it for another group of retirees. And so instead of strengthening the city retirement funds, which are below the 80% funded threshold, instead of at the 80% funded threshold and moving toward 100%, money is diverted into giveaways. So some members of council get to play Santa Claus. And it's good on the resume when it comes time for re-election. So this year, again, there's that same murmuring. Before this meeting, at which the final budget is supposed to have been adopted, there's murmuring about, well, we'll come back later and we'll drop in a cost of living adjustment for retirees. It's interesting to note that one of the main proponents for that cost of living adjustment, which has to be from recurring revenues, can't do it with one time because once you bake it in, it goes on in perpetuity. One of the main proponents for that particular item, which is not in this budget, is somebody who will be a 20-year employee of the city in very short order. So that will affect somebody else's pocketbook who's making the decision. We need a real budget. If you intend to do something, you need to show it at budget time, not drop it in when people's attention is not on the budget, not to drop it in as happened with a memorandum of understanding that made us put $4.5 million into the Sports Hall of Fame, which now is an empty shell sitting on prime property in downtown. It needs to be done in real time. It needs to be done in prime time. So I oppose this budget. We need to have a budget. And fortunately, you have until the 30th of June to approve the budget. So my recommendation is you defer action on this item tonight and you come up with a real budget with it all laid out. And oh yes, that budget would include the 6 cents that I was talking about before. You have one ace in the hole. What the paper printed about the judge's ruling in the suit to reduce the assessments for some big taxpayer in this city, that works in our favor in formulating the budget. That means there may actually be some recurring revenue that you have access to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next speaker is Grover Holloman. And, sir, you have 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Member of Council. My name is Grover Holloman, and I'm a retiree of the City of Portsmouth Fire Department. I am here. I'm also a member of the Retired Fire and Police Association. The retired public safety employees are here again to request a much-needed cost of living adjustment of $75 a month for all retired public safety widows and widowers, beginning in December of 2018. We are also asking for a $500 bonus in January of 2018. July of 2018, and a $500 bonus in December of 2018 for all other sworn public safety employees. We've made a request to the City Council on several occasions and to the Retirement Board the last month. Our request has not been honored or addressed. All of these retirees have gone above and beyond for this city in the past and without complaint or question of how they would be treated in the future. We knew our jobs and we did it well. This budget process and some council members seem to forget our past performance and our future needs. We've been told this financial cycle will last for many years, or the retirement system will not support an increase. We've been told by some council members during the election process that they would support this cost of living adjustment. We now expect them to honor this commitment. All of these things create a challenge, but challenges are made to be controlled. We believe this challenge can be met by the present city leadership. We have all been told where there's a will, there's a way. Let's see this council, how they handle this challenge. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Garland Alexander, and sir, you have 5 minutes.
Mayor Rowe, Vice Mayor Simmons, City Council Member, Dr. Patton. My name is Garland Alexander. I'm here to speak to you on behalf of the Portsmouth Police and Fire Retired Association. Once again, I'm here to address the 2018-19 budget as relates to retirees' cost of living. We are requesting for 2019 budget year $75 across the board for the sworn public safety widows/widowers, which should be funded out of the retirement, police and fire retirement system. This would take effect December 1st, 2018. This amounts to $17.30 a week. We haven't had a COLA in 3 years. This would be immediate help to widows who receive $10,000 per year. We are also requesting a bonus for all public safety retirees in the amount of $500 effective July 1 and an additional $500 as of December. The cost of living raised for widows should be out of the pension approximately $50,000 for 1/2 of the coming budget year. I attended the fire department's award ceremony recently. It was a great event, as was the public police ceremony for fallen police officers. I attended yesterday. These officers need to be recognized, but we also need to provide for their survivors, spouses, and retirees of public safety who have put their lives on the line for the citizens of Portsmouth. We respectfully request that council members and city manager grant our two requests to help the retirees and widows. I know you have heard this before, but it's a fact. Some of them are having to choose between buying food and medicine. And I have said that before. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we're ready to discuss this among council, and the chair recognizes Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, Mr. Alexander.
Yes, sir.
You've come before the council on several occasions representing the Portsmouth Police and Fire Retired Association.
Yes, sir.
Requesting the bonus and the retirement pay issue.
Yes.
My question, do you believe in welfare?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And I do too. And this is what you're requesting, that the city provide some subsidy assistance, which is what welfare is. And I support that. And as I've discussed with you before, I believe that there are other groups within this city that also look to welfare support, subsidies from this city, as well as from the federal, in regards to housing, education, salaries, and pensions. And I think that strategically, when you come before council, that should be something to take into account to make sure that your interests are being heard and properly represented here on council, and that there are multitudes of individuals and groups like yourselves who have put in and are looking for a government subsidy. The question will be, how will that be distributed and who will be making the decisions over that? And so I would greatly encourage you to get involved with those groups as well and make some decisions so that you don't have to keep trying to request things and some things go on deaf ears.
Well, I appreciate that. We've tried to make requests to represent the group we speak for. And as far as the other pension system, if you're referring to that, the other pension system is something that we're not asking money to come out of another pension system, because we don't feel like we have a right to do that, because there's two different pension systems. We have police and fire retirement system, and we have the Portsmouth supplemental retirement system. And if it's the wisdom of this council to do the $75 for the widows, which we are talking about in one respect, and they want to do it for both systems, that's up to council. We would surely not object to that, because we're sure that there's people out there that need assistance, as well as fire and police officers. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Moody.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Alexander, I think you remember it very well. Probably about 10 years ago, we had a unwritten but acknowledged procedure that when our general wage employees received a COLA, that the retirees would receive 50% of that. And that was established to prevent exactly what you and the other members of the association have to come every budget cycle to pretty much beg council to give you a stipend, a COLA, however you want to describe it. So at some point in time, I think we should go back to that because I think it's something that retirees that have served the city very well shouldn't be put into to the position to have to come to lobby council for a few bucks every budget cycle. You know, I supported what you advocated, reference the widows and the widowers, because I sincerely believe, and we've had some of them come to this council chamber sharing their financial challenges with this council. So you were at the public works session. I know the manager is going to get back with us. I hope it's getting back with us with positive news, meaning that we've ended the year in the black to an extent that we can also recognize our general wage employees. And some of them work, you know, doing snowstorms 24/7, try to clear our roads. They put into dangerous situations. It pains me not to be able to say that you're getting a COLA increase, which they're not. So there is a need there. I always believe the strength of any organization is the strength of its employees. So we need to keep that in mind when some money comes available, so we can take care of active as well as retired employees. Thanks for your persistence. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you. And the only thing I would say about that is if you're going to tie it to employees, the raises for retirees, we would like for it to be tied, public safety tied to public safety, and other employees tied to that system. But yes, it's a need there. And the reason we were asking for a straight across the board is everybody knows that when you do a percentage, the people at the top get the big bucks and the people at the bottom get the little what's left. So if you ask for a 75 across the board, that same 75 goes to the person that's only making $10,000, and that's a lot to him or her, whereas it might not be very much to a person that's making 70 or 80,000.
That's a good point.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion? Hearing none, ready for the question. All in favor of the motion, please vote yes. Opposed, no. Madam Clerk, that motion carries. That brings us to item 177, is that correct?
Yes,
Would
sir.
you read the caption of that ordinance, please?
An ordinance authorizing the transfer of $857,000 between classifications in the overall and fourth quarter FY 2018 Portsmouth Public Schools General Fund operating budgets.
So that we can consider this matter, which we debated in the closed session, is there a motion? And Councilman Moody, you asked for the floor.
Mayor, I move that this item be tabled.
Is there a second?
Second.
The motion is that we table this matter. According to Robert Rules of Order, this is a non-debatable motion. Does everybody understand the motion? Okay. The motion is to table. All in favor of the motion, please vote yea. Opposed, no. And Madam Clerk, that motion carries.
Yes, sir.
Which brings us to new business, boards and commissions.
Mayor, members of council, there are no boards and commission appointments to deliberate tonight.
Which brings us to 18179, items submitted by council members. Vice Mayor Simmons.
Thank you, sir. We have a couple of very important things going on in the next few days. For those of you who may be in and around the downtown area in the next 48 hours, you may see an awful lot of good-looking men and women who are police officers from all over the country, particularly quite a few from Florida, Louisiana, and Georgia, who are here for the National Law Enforcement Memorial bicycle ride. We have over 100 officers here in Portsmouth who will meet a group that's leaving from Chesapeake. If you would like to watch them ride out of town towards the Washington, D.C. Law Enforcement Memorial, this Thursday morning, May the 10th, there will be a send-off ceremony at 7 o'clock in the morning at the Renaissance Hotel, and then they will start riding off west at 7:30 a.m. They will meet up with the group from Chesapeake at the Churchland Library at Cedar Lane and High Street and continue west on High Street towards Washington, D.C. So if you line the High Street corridor around 8 o'clock in the morning, you will see them. They will be going to Washington to have the special memorial event on Saturday afternoon to honor the 135 law enforcement officers who lost their life in 2017. On Saturday also, beginning at 9 o'clock in the morning, we have the annual Steeple to Steeple tour of the Old Town churches and one synagogue. That's a wonderful event, been going on for years. That's from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. For ticket information, you can call 393-0973. A little later at 10 a.m., we have one of my favorites, the Buffalo Riders Parade of Horses, which will step off from Norcom High School at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. If you want more information on the Buffalo Riders, you can call 286-1493. Our farmers market is back in business at High and Court Street. That is open from 9 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock in the afternoon. This Saturday through December 15th, every Saturday. And then don't forget on Sunday is Mother's Day. You're welcome.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, so I just want to put on record why I voted no to item 18177, which was tabled. I'm not debating it. I'm just want to go on record why I voted no. I just want to remind the citizens that as part of the budgetary process, there are times when the city has to transfer funds from one line to another. This is exactly what the school board was requesting, that funds be transferred between classifications, and I think that it is micromanaging on the part of the city now. In our previous meeting, to request for the superintendent to come back and explain whether those funds will be consumed, as the mayor stated, by the end of the fiscal year. The law that was stated to us by the city attorney does not require that those funds be consumed. It requires that they be encumbered. And so I voted against that because it goes against a practice that the city conducts, as well as I think is micromanaging, and I feel that that issue can be adequately addressed when we look at the end-of-year funds. And then closing, we just voted earlier we voted on the school board's budget as being non-categorical for the next fiscal year. That whole spirit of that vote now is counter to what we just tabled, because if it's non-categorical, this wouldn't even be an issue of discussion. And so I hope that this council, in reconsidering this, will reconsider it at the next vote in the spirit in which we are moving towards non-categorical funding, and to not micromanage the school system, since we already have elected officials in place as well as administrators to do that.
Thank you. The chair recognizes Councilman Smith.
Just one quick comment, Mayor. That whole little dissertation was out of order. Thank you.
The chair recognizes Dr. Whitaker.
Yes, just one more item. I would like to also say that this is National Teacher Appreciation Week, and particularly today, May the 8th, is National Teacher Day. I find it ironic that we voted against pay raises for teachers on National Teacher Appreciation Day and pay raises for all school employees during National Teacher Appreciation Week.
Thank you, sir. This brings us to 18-180, report on pending items. Madam City Manager. Good. Which brings us to 18-181, non-agenda speakers, and we have one, Janie Culpepper. And ma'am, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, and others. My name is Janie Culpepper. I live in the West Haven section of the city of Portsmouth. I have lived in the city of Portsmouth for over 70 years. And let me say, I love the city of Portsmouth. I'm grieved to have to come before y'all this evening about an incident that happened on Sunday, May the 6th, that I think needs to be brought to your attention.
Would you speak into the mic, please?
Excuse me. That occurred on Sunday, May the 6th. I was up in the morning, decided to go out of my garage door, and as I opened the door slowly, there was a person on my picnic table, which scared the bejesus out of me. I didn't know if it was a man, woman, if the person was alive, or if the person was dead. I immediately closed the door, relocked it, went in the house, locked that door, and I called the police department. And after quite a few rings, the dispatcher answered. I explained what the problem was, and they said someone would be out immediately, and they asked did I want to speak to the officer, and I said I definitely want to speak to the officer. Well, I went to my kitchen windows, which front on Louisa, and about 15 minutes later, I saw a blue and white police car that rode around several times, and he parked in the next block, or the previous block, which I understand is police procedure to sit there to look to see if they see anything. Then a short time after that, another police vehicle, which was the larger SUV type, came, and it rode around a couple of times, and then they left. They never came to my door. The dispatcher asked me did I want to speak to the police officer, and I distinctly told her that I did. I showed y'all a picture. I provided pictures for you. You cannot see the picnic table from the front of my carport or from the side of my house. So it would have been very necessary for a police officer to get out, come on my property to look and see what was there. So I waited a while, and after about 45 minutes had passed, I called dispatch again. Once again, after 6 or 7 rings, which there again I don't understand, the dispatcher came on, and I explained the problem to her and told her that the police officers had not come on my property. She was very gracious. She told me that someone would be there immediately, and in about 5 minutes, they were. An officer pulled up to the front of my house. He got out of his vehicle and started looking between the two houses. I signaled to him. He came on the porch, and I told him, I said, you cannot see the picnic table by looking there. You've got to go back. At about that same time, 2 other officers pulled up. And they said, okay, you stay in the house. We're going to go back. Well, there again, I went to my kitchen window again. And it seemed like forever, but I was upset, so I know it wasn't forever. But a very short time later, here they come out of my carport with a gentleman that they had to wake up. Now, the part that upsets me the most about this is the officers that came the first time and were told that there was someone on the table, they didn't know if this person had shot me, raped me, broken into my house, or anything else, and certainly didn't seem to care. And I'm very, very concerned about this. I'm not the only person that's over 70 years old that goes out of their house in the morning. And I do feel like that when we call the police department, the response should be to serve the public and to do their job. And evidently, and it's very evident that the first officers did not do their job. The second officers that came, there was a African-American officer, an older gentleman who seemed to take charge. And he came to the door and talked to me and said that they told the person that if he came back on my property that he was going to be arrested and he was going to go to jail. And he said, if you'll excuse my language, I want to apologize to you for the piss-poor service that you received from the first so-called officers who came out here. And I must say, I second that. But on the flip side, I called the chief's office, and I was given the phone number for a Captain Springer, whom I spoke with yesterday, who assured me that he would look into the matter and find out exactly what the problem was. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Dr. Patton, will you have one of your deputies meet with Ms. Culpepper? Okay, this concludes our business, and we have no other business. This meeting is adjourned.